Good morning and welcome to the Candidate Coach. My name's James Whitcomb. I am the Candidate Coach, and it's great to have you joining us today, Wednesday, the 3rd of November, 2021. And today's workshop is called How to Create an Awesome Resume. We're going to go through what you need to do to cover off the basics with your resume, but we're also going to talk to you today about what it is you need to do to make sure your resume is awesome. Because when you are sending out your resume, you don't want to be sending out a document that is just average. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to go through some tips and tricks. You're going to hear some insight from an experienced recruiter around what you can do to make your resume stand out. Now, at the moment, if you're looking for work in Australia, it's a good time to be actually looking for work. There are more jobs being advertised than ever before, and there's a low level of unemployment, which means the odds are more in your favor to find work at the moment than they have been in previous years. However, it is still an extremely competitive process. And if your resume is not fantastic, then you're going to quite easily be passed over for candidates that have a far better resume. So that's what we're going to do in our session today. I am going to show you how to create an awesome resume. Alrighty, so let's get stuck into it. Just before we do, a little bit of housekeeping on today's workshop. I am streaming to you live. You might be watching it on one of our partner sites via our LinkedIn or Facebook channel. Good morning, wherever you are watching us from today, whether you're in Australia or overseas. If I do drop off for any reason, and it does happen from time to time, if I do drop off the line, please stay on the line and I will rejoin as soon as I can. Feel free to ask questions during the presentation in the comments boxes and take lots of notes as you're going along. When you hear something for the first time, the way you hear it is the way that you should record it rather than coming back and watching it a third or fourth time. The meaning to that message might have been watered down. But you can also watch a recording of this workshop. It will be up on our YouTube channel the moment that it's finished. A little bit about me, your presenter. Who am I? Why am I presenting to you today? Well, I'm a director at Smart Recruitment based out of Victoria. I've been working in recruitment since 2005. As of in about 2 weeks' time, I'll hit my 16th year. 16 years in recruitment. In that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews, conducted over 600 group assessments, placed well over 1,000 people into work, and I've probably read well over 100,000 resumes, easily over 100,000 resumes. So my advice to you today in terms of improving your resume comes from that viewpoint. Read over 100,000 resumes, placed over 1,000 people into jobs. And launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today in December 2019, because we felt there was a real opportunity to have some better coaching platforms available for job seekers where they could go and find lots of resources online. Alrighty, how are you feeling today? I would love for you to type this answer into the comments box. How are you feeling today from this list of emojis or this list of emoticons, whatever you call it? How are you feeling today? Now, there's a reason. There's a reason why I'm asking this question, because I want you to think about your resume. How does your resume present you? A couple of people have typed in good into the comments box. It's good that you're feeling good. What about your resume? What does your resume give off? How does your resume present you? It's supposed to be you on paper. It's supposed to be the best parts of you. So is it the top left-hand corner? Is it smiley? Or is it something from the bottom row there? It's a little bit, I'm just not sure. Maybe it's kind of that middle row there. It's just like, it's just bland. It's just boring. You're really wondering, how do I make my resume pop? How do I make my resume stand out? I just don't know what to do. Well, your resume is you on paper. So today, one of the things we talk about is personal branding. Your resume is a large part of your personal brand. It is really important to have a job-winning attitude and mindset. What is a job-winning attitude and mindset, and why is it important to have it? Well, I want to share a quote with you from Ryan Biggs, who is the head of resourcing and employer branding at AFCA. Ryan says, I will always go for someone with a fantastic attitude that may need a little bit of development over someone who has all of the skill but a bad attitude. So we can have all of the skill, we can have all of the experience, we can have done the best job or have the best results with our university scores. But if our attitude is bad, we will not get the job. At the same time, if we have a really good attitude, if we have what we call a job winning attitude and a positive mindset when we're looking for work, it can count for a lot. It can count for a lot. I have seen hundreds of times in my recruitment career somebody who has a great attitude get the job because they present themselves as having a great attitude. Why do we need this on our resume? Well, your resume and your cover letter can show your attitude, your confidence, and your intent. It can show all of these three things. When I look at someone's resume, I can often get a sense of how proud they are of their work. Their achievements will show that. The way they've structured and put time and effort and consideration into their resume, it does show through. Whereas if someone's just thrown their resume together, put a little bit of information on and just start flicking it out everywhere, I can tell that as well. I can tell that there's not the same intent there. Yes, that person wants to get a job, but they are not putting in the same level of effort. They don't have the same level of confidence. So your resume and your cover letter can show all of these things. And tomorrow we're running a session just on cover letters. Today we're focusing on resumes. So I want to ask you a question. Again, type your answer into the comments box here. How long do you actually think a recruiter spends reading your resume? You spend a lot of time working on your resume. For many of you, your resume is a document that you have spent 10, 20, 100 hours working on. For some of you, your resume has been evolving over your whole career. You might have started it 20 years ago, and each time something happens in your work, you continue to add that to your resume and you continue to tinker with that. So some people spend a lot of time, hundreds of hours on your resume. So you spent hundreds of hours on your resume. How long do you think a recruiter spends reading your resume? Well, eye tracking study shows it's 7 seconds. 7 seconds long. So it's not really very long at all, is it? This is not a great stat. As a person who works in the recruitment industry, I'm not proud of this statistic. I would love for it to show longer. But studies show that when somebody gets to the 7-second mark, that's about the time where they decide whether they want to keep on reading or move on to the next resume. So you've got 7 seconds, 7 seconds to grab the attention of the person reading and to make them want to read more. So it's not like they always stop at 7 seconds, but that's the point where they normally decide whether to keep going or not. So let's look into this article a little bit further. And if I do look like I'm looking over here, that's because it's my presentation screen. All right, second dot point. Resumes that succeeded in capturing the recruiter's attention featured simple layouts. So we need simple layouts with clear sections and heading titles. So we want it well organized. Resumes organized by E or F pattern reading tendencies also did well. So the E or F pattern, I want you to imagine a whole piece of paper with a massive capital F or a massive capital E. So I've got some heaviness across the top and then it's coming off the spine. That's what did well, especially when they utilize bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. So let's go over that again. We need simple layouts, we need sections, we need headings, we need bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. Basically, we want to make it easy to read. Resumes did not fare well when hindered by cluttered layouts. So they had cluttered layouts, a lack of white space on the page. Now, this is a big one. A lot of people think, I need to condense my resume. I want to make it down to maybe 1 or 2 pages, and they jam everything in. And when I look at a resume, if it's black words on white paper, all I see is big slabs of text, and it's really hard to read. So we need white space on the page. This is really important. We don't want multiple columns and we don't want long sentences. They are hard to read. A lack of section or job headers also turned off recruiters, as did text that didn't draw the eye down the page. So let's make it simple, easy to read, have white space. All right. What actually is your resume? Well, your resume is a factual account of your employment and study history. That's what it is. It's got your date, places, times, people's names, your name, job titles, locations, years, specific duties. But it also needs to highlight your skills and abilities and sell you. Sell you. Your resume needs to sell you. Your resume is an advertisement. It needs to promote you. It needs to mention the things that you do best in the workplace. So, does your resume sell you? Feel free to answer this in the comments box. Do you actually think your resume is selling you? Is it promoting you? I had a family member recently sell a property, and I'd been to their property a number of times. Now, when I looked at the property online and I looked at the photos, I thought, wow, these photos of the property look amazing. It doesn't actually look that good when you're there. But guess what? The camera doesn't lie. It's just that the photographer had placed it in the perfect position to make the property look as good as possible. They showed the best rooms. They showed the best features. They didn't show the worst parts of the property. That's what your resume needs to do. Your resume needs to sell you. Your resume needs to promote you. Your resume needs to mention the very best things that you can bring, the very best things that you have done. You can only mention 5 or 6 responsibilities and 3 or 4 achievements for each job. You can't list everything. So you must be picking the things and putting on your resume what is going to promote you the most, what is going to sell you the most, what reflects best for your personal brand. Your resume is an advertisement for you. Make sure it is selling you. As you can probably tell, I'm very passionate about this. I'm really passionate because I see so many candidates who have a really good background, but their resume doesn't promote. Their resume doesn't promote the fact that they have a wonderful background. Sorry, I'm just experiencing a little bit of difficulty here with my screen sharing. Get it back up for you now. There we go. Okay. Because essentially, you are wanting someone to buy you. Think of it this way. When you are applying for a job, you want someone to buy you. You want them to give you a job, and essentially they are buying you for 40 hours a week. So if someone's going to buy you, you've got to sell yourself. So my number one resume rule is your resume needs to sell you. Your resume is you on paper. It's an advertisement for you. It needs to promote you. I can't be any clearer than this. So if you don't think your resume is selling you, let's get into it and show you how to do it. All right. What you've got to stop doing though, because you can't sell yourself if you're doing these things. You need to stop thinking of your resume as dry. A lot of people do this. They think, oh, a resume is really boring. It's an academic document. It's not a dry, boring academic document. You need to start making your resume come alive. And we do so by tinkering with it for each job. We write each resume specific for each application. We need to make sure it's highlighting how good we are. It should be celebrating what we've done in the past, showing our best features, and thinking of it as fluid. So your resume, yes, does need to change from job to job. And I'll talk a little bit about that later and how we can do that in a way that doesn't create too much work for you. All right, so what's the first step? Let's get stuck into it. The first step is we need to make sure that we have our basic resume structure right. We really do. If we don't have our basic resume structure right, then we can't have a great resume. So before we put the icing and the decoration on top of the cake, we've got to make sure we've got a good cake under there, and that's your basic resume structure. So I'm going to share a couple of screenshots with you here on basic resume structures, and I just want to talk this through with you. But before I go any further, there is one thing that I would like to say to you quite seriously. What I'm going to show you now is just my opinion. It is my personal opinion as a recruiter who's been working in recruitment for over 15 years, who's read 100,000 resumes. What I'm going to show you now and suggest you do is my opinion. Now, the next recruiter that comes along who might be just as good or even better at their job than me, they might have a different opinion on a resume. They might like something different. They might tell you to do something different to what I do. The third recruiter that comes along might disagree with both of us and have a way that they like it. And this is the greatest challenge for you as the job seeker. There is no one formula for creating a great recipe. It's like baking a chocolate cake. If you jump on Google and type chocolate cake recipe, you'll get tens of thousands of chocolate cake recipes. Guess what? They all turn out to bake a chocolate cake. They're just slightly different in method and slightly different in ingredients. Creating a resume is the same. I'll give you my advice. Someone else's advice would be different. I'm no more right than they are. They're no more right than I am. So please bear that in mind with what I'm going to show you today. All right. It's struggling to share my screen again, but we're back. Okay, so let's look at this. So at the top here, pretty straightforward. We've got the name, Joe Citizen. I do like the fact that this has a little LinkedIn profile link here. Most recruiters are going to go to your LinkedIn profile anyway. So we may as well recognize that fact and make it nice and easy for them. Put a link just there, and then we've got contact details. Now, many resumes will now have this paragraph here. The title for here we've got is professional summary, but it could quite easily be career overview. It could be introduction. It could be objective, but it's basically 2 or 3 sentences, 2 or 3 punchy sentences. So it's kind of like an elevator pitch. If you've been in my elevator pitch training course, you'll understand what I mean here. But you want to really write a really strong statement or summary here. And again, you might change it a little bit depending on the type of job you're going for. Let's say at the moment you'd be happy with customer service or administration work. Your summary and your resume should be different for each type of job. So make sure your summary speaks clearly to the job you're going for. Education next. Particularly if you've got any tertiary qualifications, I recommend to get education on your front page. On your front page, get your education there. And then we move into employment history. We've got the job. We've got, as we've said there, here are your 6 primary duties and responsibilities, and here are your achievements. Now, note we can only list 6. So if we can only list 6, we've got to make sure we are listing the 6 that are really relevant to the job. Studies have shown that many jobs have 150 to 200 responsibilities. If you've got 150 to 200 responsibilities, you can't list them all. You can only list 6. So let's make sure we are listing 6 that are really relevant to the job we're applying for. Likewise with achievements. Now, what you'll notice with this design is a couple of things. We've used clear titles. We've used bullet points for education and history. And we've used that E or F pattern. So you can see there's literally a black line down the side of the page. So it's easy to read the bits and pieces coming off. You can actually download this resume template on our candidate coaching site. Now, what's really important here to remember is our 7-second rule. Someone is only going to look at your resume for 7 seconds before deciding whether or not to move on. So I think it's really important to have our best information on page 1. Some people put education at the back of the resume. I think if your education is a selling point, you've got to have it on the front. You've got to have it on page 1. Page 1 is 95% of your resume. Whether your resume is 2, 3, or 4 pages, it doesn't matter unless page 1 is really good. Because no one's going to get to page 2, 3, or 4 if they don't like what they see on page 1. All right, a second design. So what we've got here is slightly different design. We've got your name, top left-hand corner, and then we've got contact details. Instead of what we on the previous one, it was called professional summary. Here we've called it introduction, but it's kind of the same message. We've got a paragraph there. We've then got education. We've then got employment history. You'll notice the clear sections though. We've actually got lines between the sections. We've got bold headings. Then we've got bulleted achievements from the employment history, and then bulleted skills and attributes. So this skills and attributes section on the left-hand side here, we didn't have it on the previous resume. We do have it here. Now, there's mixed feedback here. I personally think this is okay to have, but I wouldn't want it in the middle of page 1 on my resume, partly because my own process is I don't really read the skills and attributes very much. If you are going for a technical role, maybe like an IT role, the skills and attributes section is probably a little bit more important. But we've got to remember that, as I said, 95% of your resume is page one. We need to treat the real estate on page one with extreme respect and have all of our best information on there. All right. So that's basic resume structure. So second step, as I've said, second step is the most important step. Selling ourselves. How do we actually sell ourselves? How do I do this, James? You're telling me I got to sell myself. How do I actually go and promote myself? Well, here's how you do it. I'm going to give you a real life example of somebody that I met a couple of years ago. I'm not going to show you her whole resume because you'll get distracted. But this is how she had her current job at the time. She was a sales representative, and I've changed the name of the company. She was there for 3 years. Now, if any of you have worked in sales, you will know that sales is a hard job. You get a lot of rejection. So when I see a resume of someone who's worked in sales for 3 years, I'm straight away impressed. And I normally phone interview that person purely based on tenure. Now, she had quite a good phone interview, and she then came in for a face-to-face interview. We sat down, we went through what she's got on her resume there. That she said she was a salesperson for the company for 3 years, and she sold goods and traveled to meet customers and kept them happy. Now, after meeting with this candidate and hearing about what actually she really did, I worked with her on her resume because she was massively underselling herself. She's not really selling herself there at all. The only thing she's got to go on there is her tenure. This is the after. So this is the after of her same job, same candidate, same person. So the first thing you'll notice here is we've put in 2 bold headings. We've got primary responsibilities, and I like to use the word primary because you can't list all your responsibilities, and achievements. Now, under primary responsibilities, we have listed quite a few. We've listed 8 or 9. This was 5 years ago. I probably wouldn't list 8 or 9 now. I'd probably stick more around the half dozen. And we've got 4 achievements. Couple of tips. It's really good to use numbers. So if you go to the third last dot point under primary responsibilities there, you will see that we've got attend at least 3 new business appointments per day. I can understand that in my mind. 3 a day, 15 a week, 60 a month, 700 a year. I can quantify that. I've got a really good understanding as the person reading the resume. Now, if she had just had 10 new business appointments, I don't know whether that's 1 a day, 1 a month, 1 a year. But when you put a number in front of it, I get a greater understanding. So her responsibilities, I'll let you read those yourself. But it's the achievements that are really important. So from a recruiter's point of view, most of the time I know what you did in your job. I've got a good understanding. So you telling me again what you did there, that doesn't carry that much weight. I don't actually want to know what you did. I want to know how well you did it. It's how well you did it that is most important to me, and that's what achievements show. So let's go through them. She was Salesperson of the Year in 2014, exceeding her sales budget by 21%. This was a reasonable sales team. It was not a small 2 or 3 person team. There was a large number of people. Now let's look at her previous resume. She was not Salesperson of the Year on the previous resume. I didn't know. How do I know as the recruiter if you don't have these details on your resume? But this resume, she is Salesperson of the Year. She's then given me more detail, and I like the third dot point. She helped increase product sales in Melbourne from 400,000 to 800,000 in 2 years. Quantify, details. Now, for being Salesperson of the Year, as I said, it was a fairly big company. She was actually given a brand new car. That was the prize for Salesperson of the Year in 2014. A brand new car. Now, I've never met another candidate in my career that was given a car for performing well. I had to actually eke that out of her at an interview. She didn't volunteer that information until I probed. You've got to sell it on your resume. She was a great salesperson. She is a great salesperson. I put her into her next job and she's knocked the lights out there. But on her resume, she wasn't promoting or selling herself well enough. So make sure you are selling your experience. Likewise with your academic work. If you've just completed a degree, mention the highlights. If you got a high distinction in a subject, mention that there. If you passed with flying with honors or something along those lines, mention your achievements. In some ways, it's not necessarily what you mention, but it's showing pride. It's showing pride in your work and that you understand what doing a good job looks like. All right, third step, make your resume visually appealing. So as a recruiter, when you read 100 resumes in a day, it can become very monotonous, especially when 95% of those resumes are black words on white writing. I'm just going to jump into the comments here. And someone has asked, what about team leadership position? Yes, if you've been promoted into a leadership position, mention that on your resume. Mention on your resume that you were promoted. So if you started as a sales representative and then you moved to sales leader, you would have two different roles on your resume, but you would also say that one of your achievements was you were promoted. That is a huge achievement, huge achievement. So mention leadership positions as achievements on your resume. It's the right thing to do. All right, I'm actually going to take you out of my presentation now, and we are going to jump into Canva. canva.com. Canva.com. Many of you will have been to this website before. I've got the paid version, but what I'm showing you, you can do for free. You can go up to the top of Canva here, and you can type in resume template. Hit enter. And what you will see now, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more. No, it doesn't really work. What you will see now is a whole range of graphically designed, beautiful resume templates. We can just keep on scrolling. We can scroll for days and days. We've got some resume templates that are really bold. Look at this one here, orange and pink and black. We've got some that are using photos right in the middle. We've got some that are a little bit more of a soft touch, like this one over here, just a little bit of color. But if you're wanting to stand out, this is a great way to do so. Let's say you find a resume, a template here you like. Let's just click on this one for argument's sake. I like this template. I want to use it. Here's how simple Canva is. You just go in and you replace the details with your own. So I would do my name, James Whitcomb. Now I can choose to delete the photo if I don't want to have it up there, or I've actually got my own photo uploaded into here somewhere, I'm sure. Yep, there it is. I pop my own photo into there. And then I go through and change the rest of my details. I can add the next page if I need to, and on I go. And when I finished, I just go up here and download. Now, an important thing to note with Canva is you only download as PDFs. So if you're being asked to submit a Word document, you're probably going to be in a little trouble. But graphically designing a resume is a really good way for you to stand out on paper. It is okay to have a visually appealing resume. You need to use your nous though. Like if you're applying for a fairly important role, you're not going to have a resume full of, rainbow background. But something like this, which is a touch of color, I think is a really clever thing to do. So third step, it's okay to make your resume visually appealing. It's your personal brand again. Fourth step, you need to change your resume for every job application. I am sorry to have to tell you this because I know that people don't like to hear this. Someone's written in the comments box, Canva. Yes, Canva, canva.com. Most people don't want to have to change their resume for every application. But guess what? Every single job you apply for is different. Even if you are applying for just customer service jobs in retail, each job is still different. Each company is different. Each advertisement will list different things. You can only list 6 responsibilities and 3 achievements. You need to make sure you are picking 6 responsibilities that are most relevant to the job. So I'm not saying you have to go and rewrite your whole resume. No, you don't. You don't need to. But you need to go and customize it for each job. It might take you 5 minutes, but it will really help your resume stand out. I can certainly tell when I get someone who just sends out the same resume for every job. It's not tailored. It's not speaking to that job. So apply for each role as if you're applying for your last job. Put the time and effort in. What it will probably mean is you apply for less jobs, but guess what? You are going to get greater outcomes by putting more effort into less applications. Just read some of the questions coming through. If you're referring to Canva, you need to change the whole template there into your details. All the details need to be changed into yours. Alrighty, so I'm going to run through some of the common resume questions that we get all the time. So question number 1, how long should my resume be? Right, some people like 1, 2, 3, or 4 page resumes. What I would say the common trend has been in my whole time in recruitment is that the average resume is getting shorter. It is getting shorter all the time. When I started out in recruitment in 2005, it was very common for many resumes to be 4 to 6 pages long. I'd say now the average is 2 to 3, but we're seeing more one-page resumes than ever before. It's up to you. It's your brand. What do you feel comfortable with? Likewise with the next question, should I include a photo of myself on my resume? I get asked this all the time. Again, I come back to my question to you. Your resume is a sales document. Your resume needs to promote you and sell you. Do you think that having a corporate photo, a nice smiling corporate photo of yourself on your resume is going to help sell you? I can't answer that for you. You need to answer that question. What you need to be aware of if you do put your photo onto your resume is people are going to judge you for how you look. People have unconscious bias, and when they see the way you look, they will make assumptions about you. The most important thing with photos on resumes is don't lose any sleep over it. If you want to put one on your resume, great. If you don't want to put on your resume, great. Either way, don't worry about it. Do what you feel most comfortable with because it's your personal brand. Should I include references or academic transcripts on my resumes? Okay, so what I recommend is if you have been asked to include academic transcripts, then obviously, yes, you need to with your application. But other than that, no. You might mention, as I said before, particularly if you're looking for graduate jobs, your recent qualifications and what you scored well on. I like it when someone lists the name of their reference at the bottom of their resume because that tends to suggest they're going to get a good reference, but not written references. And finally, do you need to include every job that you've ever worked in? Do you need to include jobs you worked in 25 years ago, for example? The answer is no. My advice is go into detail for the last 3 or 4 jobs or back as far as the last 10 years. Anything that you worked in, say, pre-2010, you can just really summarize with the company name and the job position and the number of years. If the recruiter wants to know more about that, then they can go through and ask you on a phone interview. Alrighty, so today, hopefully I've given you some insight into what is really important when creating your resume. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about cover letters. So wherever you're watching today's workshop, be back here tomorrow and we're going to show you how you can make a knockout cover letter to pair with your new resume. Next week, we're running LinkedIn profile optimization workshop and you'll see all of our workshops listed there. We run 2 every week throughout the course of the month. If you've got any other resume questions, please type them in. Just to the person who's asked another question around Canva, you need to change the qualifications and all the details in the Canva template. Change all the details. Okay, so the summary for today, sell your skills, sell your experience, and sell your achievements. Make your resume easy to be read. Have a look at my screen now. It's easy to read because it's got a lot of white space. It should be visually appealing. It's okay to be bold. And your resume must be tailored for every single role. If you're still wanting more assistance, jump over to the Candidate Coach, where you will find 12 coaching video episodes, templates you can download, practice interview questions, online tests that you can take, a variety of checklists, articles, specific advice for executive job seekers, mental health support, plus all of our live workshops are advertised on our website too, and all of this is available for you for free. But before you go, and I'm going to drop this into the comments box, we would love for you to take our 2-minute feedback survey. So this really helps us to get an understanding of what you gained from today, but we also want to know what would you like to hear more about. And if you're not following our LinkedIn page, I'd really encourage you to do so. But as always, we will finish today with this short video on how to make sure you're looking after your mental health as a job seeker. So thanks for joining us today. This video will conclude the workshop. I hope to see you tomorrow, and I'll show you how to write an amazing cover letter. Bye-bye for now. Hi job seekers, James here from the Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and well-being might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself, because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.